bright and early in the morning because I have to go and teach a workshop. But before that, I just want to show you what we're going to make today. So this absolutely stunning patchwork sweater dress, plus with the leftovers from this, we're going to make this amazingly awesome sweater sleeve flannel shirt, which is perfect for those chilly days. And that's why I'm wearing it today, to go and actually teach my workshop. But before we jump into the tutorials, I just want to remind you that my thrifty DIY gifts that anyone can make, eCourse plus ebook, is available now, and you pay once and you have lifetime access. So you can go back anytime you want to, make a thrifty gift for someone on your list or for yourself, and there's everything for absolutely everyone. Toys and games and spa and beauty gifts and so many things. Of course, clothing, just everything is there, and you can use what you have to make what they want, and it costs less than a trip to the thrift shop. So click the link below. Enjoy these tutorials today. Tell me which one you're going to make. Hopefully you're going to make both. And I gotta go now. To create your super cozy oversized sweater dress, you need, of course, 2 oversized sweaters and your sewing gear. So because this sweater has these fluffy, puffy pom-poms all over it, the first thing I'm going to do is remove these. So there was actually 28 pom-poms on that sweater, so that's great. And I'm just wondering, does anybody else have a pom-pom jar? I always save stuff like this because, I mean, it comes in handy, right? Then you don't have to buy it. It comes in handy for future projects. And these are so squishy and soft. I mean, for sure I'm going to use them for something else. But this is just I think it was a pickle jar, and I cleaned it out and then took an empty thread spool, glued it on top, and painted the top pink. And yeah, I have a lovely, adorable storage jar for my little tiny studio. And yeah, these are going to go in there, and then let's move on to the next step. So I just noticed something that's going to make my life a heck of a lot easier, and that is the fact that my sweaters are pretty much the exact same width here. And yeah, so I think the first thing I'm going to do is remove the sleeves from each sweater and the collars. This one, of course, is a turtleneck. This one is just a regular, plain old sweater neck. And yeah, then we're going to come back and see how else we're going to transform them. So when I'm chopping off the sleeves and the necklines, I'm actually going to leave this thick seam behind on the body of the sweater just to prevent any fraying, because I have an idea of what I'm going to do with the sleeves, and it does not require this thick seam here. So let's leave that on the body of the sweater, so, you know, to make life a little bit easier and make this project go hopefully quicker. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4 sleeves removed and the turtleneck. Now I decided not to remove the neckline from this sweater because I have an idea, and yeah, we'll wait to see at the end to see if it's gonna work or not. I may end up removing it, but for now it's gonna stay put. So I now have both of the sweaters inside out, and I have placed one on top of the other, and yeah, everything is lined up pretty well here. I have the side seams there, up at the top, the shoulder seams, and of course one is longer than the other, so the bottom hem doesn't really matter. And I'm just actually going to cut them now on the diagonal, and I'm going to chop through both layers of both sweaters. So fingers crossed this is going to be successful. So I have laid these out with each half of one sweater corresponding with the other half of the other sweater, and I'm just going to go stitch both of these together now, and then I guess I'll have in essence two kind of diagonal patchwork sweater vests, and then we're going to go from there. Okay, I'm a bit embarrassed to admit this, but it took me way too long to figure out how to put these two together so they can be stitched together nicely. So just in case anyone else has a brain like mine, I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this here. Okay, so I have both of them right side out, and then I'm simply going to flip this one kind of over the top of the other sweater here, making sure that I have the shoulder seams lined up, and now of course the right sides will be facing. So I have my shoulder seams lined up, I have these raw chopped edges lined up, and now it's just a matter of going and simply stitching both pieces together. But like I said, that took me way too long to figure out. Okay, so far so good. This is looking how I want it to look. All right, so I think I'm gonna use this one for the top, clearly, because that has that finished collar that I left. And this one is gonna be the bottom of the dress. So now we gotta figure out how to cobble all of this together. It's going to work. What's in my head is actually happening. So, yay. Okay. So I don't want this to be like super long, like past my knees. So I think what I'm going to do now is kind of fold the top a little bit here, just below the collar, and yeah, hold it up to where I kind of want it to be. I mean, you can kind of see my lines here aren't super matching up, but I don't care. I don't care. It's working out, and that's what's important. It's just going to be a little more patchworky than I thought, but that's okay. Yeah, I think if I go about there, let's chuck in another centimeter for seam allowance and pop a little pin there. Yeah, that's going to work. That is going to work. So now I'm just going to cut straight across at my mark to create my ideal length for the top of my dress. So I now have the bottom part of my dress inside out and laying flat. And clearly I do not need sleeves and armholes on the bottom of my dress, nor do I need a neckline or a head hole. So the very first thing that I need to do is, of course, close up these armholes. And to do that, I'm just going to stitch as close as possible from the shoulder seam straight down, kind of trying to make it as straight as and even as I can. And then I'm just going to chop off that little bit of excess. And I'm going to do that on both sides. So now that I have my new side seams on the bottom of my dress, I can simply go chop off the shoulder seams and of course the neckline area. So because I took in the sides of the bottom, I now, of course, have to also take in the sides of the top, because you can see here there is more than a couple of centimeters difference, and I want the top and the bottom to match up. I want it to be quite straight. I don't want to have to do any gathering at the top. So all I'm going to do is pop a pin in the top part here, and then just do a really simple straight stitch from the pin up to the opening of the armhole here. So at this point, I highly recommend popping everything on inside out and just making sure that it's all kind of coming together how you want it to. And mine really is. This is gonna work. So now let's go stitch the top to the bottom, then we can get started on the sleeves and what's gonna happen with the collar. So I have my top piece, I have my bottom piece, and they are both right side out. Now I am simply going to flip my skirt bottom piece over top of my top piece. So now my skirt piece is inside out, but as I always say, when they are stitched together, the right sides will be facing. And yeah, now it's a matter of lining up the side seams on both sides and really trying not to stretch as I stitch. If you have any tips and tricks for sewing with knits without using any fancy machinery, just a plain old sewing machine, please leave them down below, because we're always up for learning here on this channel. So I popped a pin on each lined up side seam area, and it all seems to be fitting together really, really well. So I'm really glad that I took in the top as much as I did. And yeah, now I'm just gonna go stitch these two together. Okay, the top and bottom are stitched together. I chopped off any excess fabric here. Now let's flip right side out and Okay, that is actually looking pretty cool, I think. So let's get it done. Let's do the sleeves now. Okay, so because these sleeves, which, weren't from the same sweater, are so similar in color, I think, because I want this to be patchworky, these two sleeves that were from this sweater, I'm just going to set them aside and use them in a future project, because then I'll have two sleeves that are actually identical, so that's good. And because these ones are different, I am going to put the darker one on the light side and the light one on the darker side. But I'm going to do this in a little bit of a creative way, and instead of putting them right back on the same way they were before with the shoulder seams and everything lined up, I'm going to flip them over. And so the cuff is now going to become the top part of the sleeve, and then where it attached to the shoulders will then become the bottom. And I'm just going to do like a lettuce hem and create a bell sleeve. And we all know how much I love bell sleeves here. So, okay, so let's do that. So I thought before I attached my sleeves, I would finish off the bottom lettuce edge bell here. And I'll just show you how I do that. I take my... what is this called? I always called it a foldy foot, but I don't think it's called that. It is called, a rolled hem foot. That's what it's called. So take your rolled hem foot and simply set your machine to a tight, wide zigzag and use it to stitch all around the raw edge of your garment. And because this is knit, it is a little bit picky, and you do tend to have to kind of hold it in place and stretch it a little bit more than if you were just using your rolled hem foot on a nice light cotton or something like that. But it does work, and as you can see, it looks pretty darn cool. Now, if you do not have a rolled hem foot, you still can achieve this kind of lettuce hem look using just your plain old straight stitch foot here. I don't know what this is called either. And to do that, again, you simply fold your knit over, and with that tight wide zigzag and stretching as you stitch, just, stitch the raw edge and it curls up just like it did with the rolled hem foot. Now, of course, these look a little bit different. This one came out quite a bit wider because I was super stretching this one. But once everything is all washed and dried, it will actually, everything will constrict and it'll all match up perfectly. So now let's attach the sleeves. So my dress is now so close to being done, I can taste it. All right. Okay, so I have my light colored sleeve that is going on the darker side, and it is right side out. And now I am just going to pop it into the inside out dress. And again, right sides will then be facing. And I have to find, there it is, have to find my underarm sleeve seam here, and I'm just going to line that up with the side seam and underarm seam of the armhole. And of course I will have to stretch as I stitch because these are slightly different lengths, widths, what have you. And yeah, now I'm just going to go stitch those together and then repeat on the other sleeve and armhole. Okay, so my sleeves are now on, and I think everything is pretty much done. I did go ahead and reattach the turtleneck as well, so it just gives that, little bit extra warmth, plus some extra patchwork here at the top as well. So now let's go try it on and style it up. For this fab flannel transforming project, all you need is a slightly oversized flannel shirt and a pair of leftover knit sleeves. Mine are what is remaining from my patchwork sweater dress tutorial. So next you want to have all of the buttons done up on your flannel, and then we are going to chop off the collar area just below the second button here. So you're going to have the collar button and then the first button, and you're going to start chopping right below there and chop all the way around. Then once you get to just about the shoulder area, you're going to chop just the collar off and then come all the way back around to where you started. So now we have this open space where the collar used to be, and the first thing you need to do then, because we chopped off the button, is just line that up and just do a straight stitch down to the first button there, just to hold the top of the chopped collar area closed. If you're wondering what you can do with the chopped off collar area, I actually have a couple of inventive tutorials for you. First up, you can make an absolutely adorable collar necklace out of it, super duper simple. Or you can add it to a bunch of other scraps and whip up a adorable scrappy monster for yourself or as a nifty thrifty gifty. So you can see here I just did a really simple straight stitch to close that up just so it's not flapping around. It will eventually be covered, so it definitely doesn't have to be perfect. And here's just my kind of little thoughts here. You know, perfection is the enemy of good, and I would much rather that something be good and wearable than go for absolute total perfection and then ruin it with a silly mistake. And at the end of the day, you know, I always see things that I think don't look perfect, but nobody else notices them. Ever. Like I can count on one hand, like maybe one time where someone actually noticed something, and it was just something like a thread that I, forgot to trim. So that was an easy fix. But other than that, please always remember, nothing ever has to be perfect. And if you like it, if you love it, if you feel great in it, then absolutely wear it. So next we need to cut off the sleeves and just go ahead and chop them as close to the sleeve seam as possible, leaving the finished edge on the actual shirt. Now that the sleeves are off, we want to remove the cuffs because we're going to use them for a little fancy detail at the end. And just leave a centimeter or two here of seam allowance between the cuff and the actual sleeve. Now, each of my sleeves here only has one seam going up kind of, I guess, the bottom area. So I'm just going to chop that seam out entirely on both sleeves. If your shirt has a side seam on each side, then only chop the one that is on the shorter side of the sleeve. Now, once I have my side seams chopped out, I do not throw them out. I always hold on to this kind of stuff because they make really good little borders on like small projects, to finish off hems or little seams on the outside, and they have a cool pattern, so that's great. Also, you can kind of twist them up and wind them up, and let me see if I can do this. And then, let me fold that out. Okay. Then you just kind of hand stitch or machine stitch back and forth, and they make kind of a funky little rosette detail on just about anything. And of course, super duper simple. You can tie off the ends, wear them as a bracelet. Of course, that's super easy. Or use them to tie up small gifts or gift bags. I mean, just let your imagination go crazy, but don't throw these out. Hold on to them, reuse them. So now I have my chopped open sleeves laying together with the right sides facing. And I mean, I tried lining everything up, but it's fast fashion, right? It's thrifted fast fashion. Like that makes a difference, but whatever. You can really see how not even these sleeves were, so I'm very glad that I'm refashioning it into something else. Anyway, so I'm just gonna cut straight across the top here to even this up because that is insane. Okay, now everything is nice and even. I'm going to go stitch the sides together to form the sleeves into a tube. So now I have my side seams together, and I also went ahead and gave the smaller end a relatively nice clean hem here. And in essence, you see what we're created here is like a cowl neck or a fold down turtleneck. That's what we're doing to this flannel shirt. So now it's time to add our fancy new neckline to the shirt itself. So now I have my shirt inside out, and I also have my cowl turtleneck neckline inside out. And I'm going to put my turtleneck neckline into the shirt. So I'm going to have the inside out, or the wrong side, facing the right side of the shirt. And then that way, when everything gets folded down, the right side of my turtleneck cowl will be facing outward. All right, so we're going to pop this inside and make sure everything is lined up as it should be. All right, and now I'm just going to line up all the raw edges and then go stitch everything together. Okay, so it is all stitched on. Any excess fabric has been chopped off, and yeah, let's do the moment of truth here and let's see if it actually is going to work. Okay, looks good so far. I have the shirt right side out, and the collar part, when it's up, is of course inside out. So let's just kind of fold it down here, and it's nice and floofy. That's how I wanted it. And perfection. It is right side out to right side out. Wonderful. And after I put it on, I'm going to play around with the collar a little bit here, and then I'm probably going to end up stitching it down asymmetrical. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see at the end. But now let's move on and get the sleeves back on here. So before I put my sweater sleeves onto the shirt, I thought it might look super cool to attach the chopped shirt cuffs to the cuffs of the sweater, and it will make them a little bit longer because they were a little bit short. And yeah, so here I just flipped the cuff over the sweater cuff with the right sides facing, and now I'm just going to go stitch them together. And my sleeves are done, and I think they look pretty awesome. I was a bit concerned because the knit and the flannel definitely have a totally different stretch to them, and you can see here it is a little bit bunchy on the knit where it is attached to the flannel. But just like my patchwork sweater dress, once I give these a launder, all of the knit that kind of got stretched out is going to fuse back together, and it will all straighten out. So that's just a quick tip. If your knit ever gets bunchy, just toss it in the washing machine and lay flat to dry, and it'll go back to its normal state. So I now have my shirt inside out and my sleeve right side out, and I am just going to pop my sleeve into my shirt, and again, right sides will be facing. And you can see here how I chopped off my sweater sleeve. I did leave that kind of angled top of the sleeve look, so I truly just have to match these up. And because it was an oversized sweater and this is a extra large, I believe, shirt, they do fit together pretty darn perfectly. But if I do end up having to stretch the knit a little bit as I stitch, then it's not an issue at all. And yeah, now I'm just going to go stitch them together. So my sleeves are on very successfully and looking fantastic. So now, do you remember a little while ago I talked about what I'm going to do with the collar here? And I'm simply going to fold it down just like you would like a turtleneck, and then you see the seam here? I'm just going to stitch it down following the seam just so it stays in place. Otherwise it will have a tendency to, you know, slip slide around, kind of like turtlenecks do, because it's not super tight on my neck, and I prefer to have it stitched down just so it doesn't flip and flop around. Okay, now my collar is stitched down, the sleeves are on, everything is done, right? Yes, if you want to be done now, you can totally be done now. But as for me, I kind of decided to, you know, chop this off because I don't like wearing things that are so super long. So I have put a pin here. I'm just going to chop it to size and then hem it up. You can see here, that's not looking great, and I don't really like having to go and chop off fraying bits constantly because that doesn't look nice when you're wearing it. And I actually don't have enough fabric here to fold it over again to hem that up. It would not look good at all. So instead, I'm going to bind up all of this fray and add a cool little bit of fabric to the bottom. So let's just do that. So I don't have any trim that's going to match this just lying around in my stash, and I really don't feel like making any. So that is where my collection of fabric belts comes in. And these lovelies all came with vintage dresses or tunics or jumpsuits. And, you know, I don't really wear these ever with the matching garment that they came with, so they all get rolled up neatly and put into my lovely little box here. And I happen to have this one, but this is what we're going to use because how closely matching is that? That's really awesome. These two navy blues are great together. So all I'm going to do is flip my shirt inside out because you want to start on the inside side of your garment. And then I'm going to take my fabric belt, and I have already checked, and there's more than enough length here to go all the way around the bottom hem of my shirt. And I'm just lining this up as close to that bottom of the buttonhole there as possible. And now I'm going to go stitch this all the way around the bottom, making sure that I have enough to fold it over to the front of the shirt. And then you can see how it's going to bind up and cover up that bottom hem, and then all the fray is going to be trapped in here, and we shall never ever see it again. My fabric belt is now all stitched on nicely, and of course I had to chop the ends because it was much longer than what I actually needed. So I just chopped those ends and then hemmed them up nicely. And you can see here, look, all that fray is now going to completely disappear and be hidden when I fold over my fabric belt or binding, whatever you want to call this, to the front and go and stitch this down. And yeah, then it's going to be done. And how easy was that? And I didn't lose any length on my shirt whatsoever because I'm just adding this fabric to bind up and conceal that fraying hem. And the bottom hem of my shirt is now looking absolutely fabulous, and that fray has magically disappeared. Now, as I said, you can also use this technique on just about anything, like, look at the cuffs of these jeans. How adorable is that? Or even better, here, this was a awesome vintage dress that I upsized, and I wasn't sure if the bottom was going to fray or not. This is super polyester, so I just went ahead and bound it up with a little bit of vintage lace, and it's now awesome. And the tutorials for these jeans and this awesome dress up size will be linked down below for you. And my workshop was a rousing success. I love doing these so much because it really gives me such an amazing feeling of accomplishment. And also the attendees get that feeling as well when I can open up my brain in person and really get in there and show them just how easy upcycling and refashioning is. And then they go away with something totally awesome that they want to wear every single day. And it's an amazing feeling. Anyway, you already know how easy upcycling and refashioning is because, again, I just showed you some more tutorials that are so simple. And I want to know, which one are you going to make first? I mean, clearly you should make this one first, right? Because it is absolutely amazing. And then you use the leftovers to make this one. And if you are stumped for any kind of gifts at any time of year, I highly recommend my Thrifty DIY Gifts Anyone Can Make eCourse plus epic ebook that comes along with it, because truly there are things in there you can make using what you have to make what they want. And I don't know, it costs less than a trip to the thrift shop, and you have lifetime access, so you can always go back and refer to it when you have more gifts that you need to make for yourself, even, because it's always nice to make stuff for yourself, isn't it? And have I mentioned that if you join my Refashionista crew, you get instant access to my sustainable style workshop, which personally I think is absolutely awesome, and loads of other fabulous perks are there as well. And if you're not sure if you're still on the fence about joining my Refashionista crew, let me show you a little video that explains just how awesome it is. But before that, here's something else that is a wonderful perk. You get a wonderful shout out and a big mwah kiss at the end of all of my videos. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I'll catch ya on the zigzag. And here's how and why you should join my Refashionista crew. For just 99 cents a month, you can help save a struggling Refashionista. For just 99 cents a month, you can help sustain the much-needed work that goes on behind the scenes. Every thrift flip, every DIY, every upcycle, every free tutorial can only continue with your support. Join my Refashionista crew for only 99 cents a month, less than the cost of 2 bananas or a pack of gum, and help me continue teaching anyone who wants to learn how to use what they have to make what they want. Don't let affordable, sustainable DIY style become an endangered species. Join my Refashionista crew today.
This is Confessions of a Refashionista.